So ARC really brought like the market back to life today, and something about like the main figure that kind of ignites the market and has really big extension. We know that it's likely going to fade back down to like 70% of where it began, but at the same time, it's the ticker that everybody is shorting. So when it opens weak and it doesn't have like that failed follow through momentum initially off of the spike in previous resistance levels where it traps intraday bag holders, it doesn't give you good risk to reward, it doesn't give you good odds. So initial shorts got squeezed, and it was the same thing with EFOI and Rdbx. You see this a lot with like weak opens that end up getting supported and then gradually builds higher lows and then squeezes everybody out, and then it comes back down. So sometimes you will miss some moves if it opens weak, but at the same time, it's probably better just to be safe and avoid them altogether and just go for the ones that are really solid setups. But ARC, this one obviously was the main play. Didn't really pan out, had this weird looking squeeze, then we just sort of consolidated in this range. Tomorrow it's going to be, a beautiful short. If it can come back to 11s, anywhere within this region, great risk to reward. It's probably going to fade back down to like the 6s or 7s because it has no support. This is a straight parabolic squeeze. So, A+ setup. With the Rdbx, this one's pretty interesting. We had this consolidation between 6 and 7 for a while. It wasn't fading back down. I think shorts were getting a little bit too aggressive, even though it was holding support. I'm talking about right in this region. So we had this, initial move, double top, fade back down, and then it squeezed everybody. The momentum shifted again, failed really hard, sort of like how, this, cracks similar to this crack and this crack, but then came back in, and in this region, everybody's thinking bounce short, everybody's saying it's going to fade back to 5 and lower, but ends up putting in a higher low on the 6th, and this is where, you have to pay attention, and you have to respect the trend, respect what the price action is telling you. It's put in a higher low, the range is getting really tight, then ended up breaking out and, scores everybody out. So, it's a decent long setup, honestly. If you're going to take it in this region and risk 630 by like 680, 670, it's a decent risk reward. I wouldn't be chasing it up at the actual breakout level, but if you're buying it, anticipating the breakout, and you saw how it was kind of forming the trend, and you figured, hey, I think 6 might support, I think it has another leg up, that's a decent trade thesis today. It did open weak, like the other tickers we just saw, but, it quickly spiked back and had some failed follow through. So, it was a decent short if you shorted here, risking the highs, and then dabbled in here and moved your risk down. It was a decent trade, it just didn't pan out, sort of like ARC, it just held it up. So, tomorrow, just like ARC, this is going to be a beautiful fade back down. Husa is a bounce short setup we see on the daily chart. It has, a ton of resistance, but it's managed to continue to grind. It has, the whole oil sector behind it. I don't know if INDO is doing well. INDO was the leader for all those oil and this is energy, so it's a little bit different energy. Look at Aerc, this is the kind of the ETF of all the energy put together, and that's been the major leader in the market so far. So that's the catalyst behind this one. But if you look at the price action, drew a bunch of lines. We got this initial bounce short, squeezed everybody out. It was only up like 30%. I wrote about that in one of my other blog posts. Comes back down, and at this point the price is neutralized. So if you're going to short into it, there's not enough range, and I think that's probably what happened. People were shorting into it, expecting it to fade lower than 4, but there wasn't enough range. And then you had just the overall sector momentum taking over as well. And then coming into today, it has all the resistance on the daily chart, which is indicative of a fade back down to its original starting point. However, it just doesn't have enough range, and overall, there's just too much support. If it's a parabolic move and it cracks, it's probably going to come all the way back down. But if there's layers of consolidation, layers of support, it's likely to consolidate at those levels, and it could end up reversing, right? So, and when it's so jam-packed, all the layers of support, I mean, it's like, where are you going to short this, right? So it needed to go up to 8 or 9, which it did, after, this initial week open squeeze. And, tomorrow it's going to be, once again, like, we look at all the tickers that were set up coming into today, Husa, Aerc, and Rdbx, they're all good setups, and I think, since there weren't that many setups for the past couple of days, a lot of people were just eager to short them, and they ended up being crowded, and they ended up not working as people expected. But I think tomorrow is going to be the day where all these stickers just completely, unwind. So that's just my thoughts on it. Jan was super weird. Had this just insane squeeze in the midday. I don't know if they released news or something, but this is something you only see, a few times, if ever. And that was actually yesterday. Sorry, that was yesterday. It just goes to show sometimes you should be safe. Cover early. It's never bad. But this was like, I think it had some resistance on the daily chart, so you can, I guess, call it a bounce short. Yeah. It had all this resistance. So, it was a decent short setup. The intraday price action wasn't the most, but it was okay. You had this failed spike. Could have probably shorted it in here. If I shorted this, I probably would have stopped out or stopped for a break even. But now it's holding up on no volume. I don't know what to make of this exactly. If it does spike back into the resistance levels and it fades back down, it has these two layers of support. So because this setup is a bounce short, I would expect it to fade all the way back down in the long run. But at the same time, I'm not really sure. I'm more in I want to see what happens with this particular ticker rather than actually trading it. I think Husa, Aerc, and Rdbx, these are the ones that have the most, especially Aerc because it was a parabolic move. These are the ones that have the most risk reward. So that's what I'm watching tomorrow. HTCR, this rode off the momentum that Aerc had yesterday. It's also important to note, when you have Aerc happen, tickers are going to be hot and it's difficult to short. At the same time, it'll provide you with bounce short opportunities, but you just have to always be careful and have a short leash on tickers, like with Jan. Aerc definitely could have affected what happened at 2 o'clock, because Aerc happened. This happened a couple hours before, so you get all those people that are just looking for something to chase, and then once they see something spiking and breaking out of intraday resistance levels, everybody becomes a buyer because they have FOMO. So, and this was actually a really nice failed momentum setup, because you have this, and you have this parabolic move. It's hard to really time the parabolics. The risk rewards all messed up. I probably would have shorted it in here because you have that lower high, and that's what everybody did. They ended up getting squeezed. But after you have the people that were, you have all these people that were on the wrong side of the trade on this squeeze. Then you had all these people that were on the wrong side, and then you had, the third time you had people on the wrong side that were, shorting it when it had just a little bit of juice left. but after all of the buying and the demand goes away, then what you're left with is a complete dump. So that was actually a decent interest rate set. You don't see that. This is like you see variations of this sort of pattern where you get like the initial. This is sort of like a bounce short that ends up squeezing one more time, and then that ends up actually being the bounce short. But you almost never see this particular price action. At least it's very rare. But with HTRC, just on a channel all day, and what I like to do is just, put literally just draw lines. Where's the support? Where's it having trouble? And the earlier you can identify it, like it doesn't look like it's gonna be in a channel at this point. But if you just draw those lines and then you just watch the stock later on, check in on it every 30 minutes or whatever, more times than not you'll end up seeing it just hold within those lines. But I think this fail probably was indicative of I don't know, like this is super weird. It's the first green day. I don't think you have great odds going long or going short on these type of setups, but tomorrow push back to the 250s is going to get absolutely destroyed. So this goes on top of the watch with Aerc and Rdbx and the Efio tomorrow.